Doctors are performing an autopsy today on music legend Prince, trying to determine the cause of his death. We did learn a little more today, and the Carver County, Minnesota Sheriff's Office was holding a news conference about an hour and a half ago. But the coroner says they won't release anything until that autopsy is complete, and that could take weeks. Meanwhile, the tributes continue to pour in, and the response from fans shows us just how many people Prince touched with his music. There's also been a lot of speculation about the cause of his death, everything from the flu to seizures to a drug overdose. In fact, TMZ is reporting that Prince had overdosed on Percocet 2 days prior to his death. Here's TMZ's Harvey Levine on the Kelly File last night.
What we are told by multiple sources is that they made the emergency landing because of radio calls indicating that he may have had a drug overdose, and that it was so serious that they gave him treatment at the airport on the tarmac.
Now, Levin then went on to say that the artist was discharged from the hospital 24 hours later.
All right, so joining us now is Newsmax Health editor Nick Tate, author of the Baby Boomer Survival Guide. And Nick, we are still waiting for the final results of the autopsy, so we'll put that aside for a second. But there's a speculation here about an overdose of Percocet, which is one of these opioid drugs. We've heard a lot of talk about this on the campaign trail this year in 2016, and now it's come up again in this discussion. What makes these opioids so dangerous?
Well, as you say, we really do not know. There are more questions than answers about Prince, but what we can definitively say is that these opioid painkillers are killers. There's about 40 deaths a day in this country from overdoses of painkillers. They're highly addictive. People tend to take too many of them. Many of them are extended release doses, so if you get one and you don't feel pain relief right away, you might take another one. And they're often combined with other kinds of sedatives. So Xanax has opioids in them, narcotics, and it's not uncommon for people to go out and have, say, a couple glasses of wine and then they can't sleep, so they take a Xanax, and that is a lethal combination.
Nick, we also want to talk about Jimmy Carter. You've been reporting on this before, a brand new immunotherapy treatment that appears to have cured Carter's cancer. What can you tell us about this?
Well, you know, to a lot of people who are close to him, it seemed like a miraculous recovery. You know, there must be something else going on. But in fact, to people who do cancer research, immunotherapy of the type that Jimmy Carter received is really one of the real breakthrough bright spots in cancer research. It's a new drug called Keytruda, and it was just approved last fall by the FDA for certain kinds of melanoma tumors that spread to the liver or brain, as was the case with Jimmy Carter. And in February, he said not only is he cancer-free, but the expectation is that he can completely stop all the treatment he's receiving. The hope with immunotherapy is that it will add to the weapons we now have to fight cancer, like surgery, chemo, and radiation, in a way that boosts the immune system in a way that doesn't damage healthy tissues or knock down your immune system. So it's really hopeful. You
mentioned it just got approved by the FDA. Is it something that's available to everyone now, or is it still cost prohibitive?
It's expensive, it is, as many of these new drugs are, but in fact the more it becomes useful in these various settings, the more standard it will become, and insurers will pick it up depending on the kind of cancer you have. You have to have a specific genetic mutation to qualify for it, but I think it will become standard care, at least in the years ahead.
All right, so we'll look forward to that. Now, one last topic we wanted to discuss with you this week. Earlier, we reported about United Healthcare pulling out of the Obamacare exchanges. You also wrote the Obamacare Survival Guide in addition to the Baby Boomer Survival Guide. Can Obamacare survive the withdrawal of United Healthcare?
Well, United Healthcare is really the 500-pound gorilla in the insurance industry. They're the leading insurance company in this country, and they were dominant on these Obamacare exchanges. So pulling the plug on their plans in these various states is certainly not good news for Obamacare or for consumers. About 800,000 people are now going to have to find alternative insurance. Those costs are going to go up in all likelihood. Competition will go down. And the real question is, will the other insurers follow suit? And if they do, it could create a kind of death spiral that would provide fewer choices, higher costs. The one thing we can definitely see that's going to happen in these places for people who've had these plans is they're going to pay more this year, maybe double-digit increases in their premiums.
Double-digit increases.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're seeing in the early projections.
Well,
does this mean it's more likely that Obamacare could get completely repealed?
I think it makes it certain that Obamacare will be one of the major issues heading into the fall elections. And as we've been talking about for years, it will continue. How Obamacare will either be repealed replaced or reformed is not a topic that's going to go away anytime soon. And there are many plans out there that would address some of these problems. The question is, can they get through Congress? Will whoever wins the presidential sweepstakes implement them next year?
I mean, you've heard some anecdotal stories about Obamacare on the campaign trail, but it hasn't been a cornerstone of anybody's campaign thus far, and you expect that to change, though, with this.
Surprisingly, but I think as the new numbers come out, as they will begin to roll out on the increased premiums that people are going to pay, they're going to have to start paying attention to it, whoever the front runners emerge to be, and I think we know who they're going to be. My prediction is we'll see it again explode like it did 2 years ago and 4 years ago.
All right. Nick, I also know that you're going to be on Hardline tonight. You're going to be talking about the Zika virus, something that a lot of people have been talking about. I know Hillary Clinton actually went down south to South America to study this more. What can you tell us about it?
Well, the more we learn about Zika, the scarier it really is. We now know that it's not only spread by mosquitoes, but through sex and other means. We think it may also cause neurological problems as well as birth defects. And the certainty is we're going to see more cases in the U.S., particularly in border states, as it spreads.
All right.
A lot of money Congress is going to try to come up with to deal with the problem. Nick Tate, thanks so much for being with us, and stay tuned to get more on the Zika virus coming up during Hardline.
Coming up next here on Newsmax Now, Donald Trump talks about how cool it was to vote for himself for president, but the late-night comedians say it probably wasn't his first time. We'll have the best jokes coming up right after the break. Plus, we still want to hear from you. Tell us what you think about Prince's death or share your favorite memory.